Judy Fox McGuire, and I'm a member of the Public Service Bargaining Committee. I'm a senior probation officer at Community Corrections, and I have been a BCGEU member for over 20 years. I live in Fort St. John on Treaty 8 territory of the Cree, the Dene, the Denizah, and the Tahltan. You're a member of the BCGEU, and the process of collective bargaining starts and ends with you. A collective agreement is a negotiated contract between union members represented by their union bargaining committee and the employer. Agreements last for a specific period of time, generally a few years, and then they're renegotiated. The agreement outlines the terms and conditions of employment and your rights as a union member working for an employer. After you have elected your bargaining committee, we begin the bargaining process by identifying priorities. The ideas come from you, the members, through your local or component and are finalized during a bargaining conference. It can be tough to decide which ideas to move forward with, and similar ideas are merged, and some may be set aside because they're not feasible. The ideas selected become the proposals we'll present to the employer on day one of bargaining. There might be proposals for wages and benefits, working condition improvements, and language changes, such as stronger anti-bullying and decolonizing measures, to name just a few. Depending on the sector in which you work, that will determine how your employer is represented at the bargaining table and what collective agreement you are covered by. Your employer is a public service agency, the PSA, or in other words, the BC government. We bargain two kinds of agreements directly with the PSA: the main agreement, which covers all members of the bargaining unit, and then the component agreement. 5 separate component agreements are bargained to address issues that are very specific to your particular occupational area. There's corrections and sheriff services, retail stores and warehouse, social information and health, administrative professionals, and environment, technical, and operation.
Hi, I'm Dean Purdy, and I'm a member of the Public Service Bargaining Committee. I'm a correctional supervisor, and I work at the Vancouver Island Regional Correctional Center, and I have been a BCGEU member for 34 years. I live in Victoria on the unceded territory of the Lekwungen-speaking people and the territory of the Songhees and Esquimalt peoples. At the same time, we're considering ideas and preparing for our bargaining proposals. So is your employer. Bargaining begins officially when the two sides exchange their proposals. Some are accepted right away. Sometimes proposals are modified into something both sides can agree on. Bargaining continues until both sides agree on the proposals or decide to withdraw them because they cannot reach an agreement and they are determined not to be a priority. Then both sides announce they've reached a tentative agreement. Until this happens, our union will email you information bulletins at key points during negotiations. This is why it is important the BCGEU has your personal email address. This way, you're always up to date.
Hi, I'm Kusam Dole, and I'm a member of the Public Service Bargaining Committee. I work at the Liquor Distribution Branch and have been a BCGEU member for 20 years. I live in Coquitlam on the unceded territory of the Coquitlam First Nations. Sometimes our union and the employer can't reach a tentative agreement. This is called impasse, and it begins a new process for you and your coworkers. If impasse happens, your bargaining committee will come to you to discuss next moves. There are a number of possible forms of job action, including an overtime ban, work to rule, or a strike. Strikes are an action we take only when necessary, because by disrupting the work of the employer, it can also have an impact on individual members and the people that you serve. Sometimes job action is needed, but before this happens, you get to vote on whether you support a strike. A strong strike vote sends a strong message to the employer that you, as union members, support your bargaining committee and are prepared to stand up for your priorities that the employer is not agreeing to. A majority vote in favor of a strike doesn't necessarily mean a strike will happen. Sometimes we use a strike vote to demonstrate we have mandate from members to pressure the employer to accept our proposals or work out a reasonable compromise. The pressure tactic often succeeds. Sometimes we can avoid a strike by entering into mediation. This is a process where an independent mediator serves as a go-between to help the two sides reach an agreement. If a strike does happen, we will continue to bargain to reach a tentative agreement so that you can return to work. BCGEU members who are striking on a picket line will receive weekly strike pay and support on the picket line.
Hi, I'm Maria Middlemiss, and I'm a member of the Public Service Bargaining Committee. I'm with Ministry of Health and have been a BCGEU member for 27 years. I live here in Victoria on the unceded territory of the Lekwungen-speaking people, also known as the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations. We bargain until there's a tentative agreement. Then we share the details with you. We hold ratification meetings to explain the contents of the agreement. Your bargaining committee will often provide their recommendation. Then you get to vote to accept or not. You and your co-workers always get a say. If members reject the agreement, we find out why. Then we go back to the bargaining table with the employer and consider job action. When a majority accepts the tentative agreement, it is said to be ratified.
Hi, I'm Rob Davis, and I'm a member of the Public Service Bargaining Committee. My real job is a lab health science officer with the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Fisheries, and I've been a BCGEU member for 33 years. I live and work in Abbotsford on the unceded territory of the Sumas and Matsqui First Nations. Once a tentative agreement is ratified, these are collective rights you've helped achieve. You can find your agreement on your page of the BCGEU member portal. If you aren't already connected to the member portal, you can sign up at bcgeu.ca. It is vitally important that we have contact with members through your personal email, not your work email, to ensure that members receive important information throughout the bargaining process. Bargaining a new collective agreement always begins and ends with you, your ideas and your vote. You can always trust our union to be there with you every step of the way. Find out more about our union and the bargaining process by visiting bcgeu.ca.